Hi, this is Dave and Jim with today's One Rep Constructive Conversation. Let's get into today's subject. All right, today's topic is being the bad cop. When being the bad cop goes wrong. No, I'm kidding. When being the bad cop pays off for the YMCA. So, I mean, sometimes you need somebody in the project, whether it's with the community or whether it's with the local politics, or whether it's all, normally we're talking about the general contractor or his or her subs or whatever. Mm-hmm. So Jim, let's talk a little bit about being the bad cop and what that means and how that benefits a YMCA capital project.
Sometimes you have to say no. And
how dare you?
I can say it comes with great difficulty because everybody wants to satisfy the expectation at that moment, right? So our architects, and they're not here to defend themselves today, but architects inherently want to satisfy the customer's expectation, and it often is at that moment. Client wants gold trim, architect says absolutely. No one says, hang on a second, what does that mean for your project if we apply gold trim? Does it lead to a more successful YMCA in its programming? And so we often interject. We don't force our recognition of the issue. We just bring it, with our experience, bring it to the surface and say, okay, if we apply this gold trim, what does that mean?
Right.
And so we, there's value in interjecting. It prohibits the rabbit holes oftentimes.
Right.
Let's explore this. Well, okay, we should in a moment, but sometimes there's blatant interest that have no benefit on the vision or the budget.
Right.
And so we often interject. And it's not just in the development, but it's also in, if I may, we have partners within the YMCA, and I'm moving on to another example here. But sometimes those partners are not best suited for the project at hand, and it's difficult for the YMCA to speak to their partner and let them know that this is probably not their opportunity.
Right.
And yet they want to preserve the relationship with that partner. Right. And we often find ourselves stepping in and being the intermediary, if you will, right?
Well, not necessarily the bad cop, just the middleman.
The middleman can be, it can be perceivably be the bad cop.
Yeah, right.
And so we, there's definite value in moments to be the bad cop.
Right. So if I understand what you're saying, mm-hmm. There certainly can be times with architects, like that's the base of the pyramid. We all know that sometimes architects can have their own vision,
right, to
put it very crassly, mm-hmm. that doesn't necessarily 100% align with the budgetary constraints, right, that Ys have. And I'm not saying this could still be a $40 million Y. Mm-hmm. Right, we don't need it to be a $46 million Y, and it doesn't take that much to get it down. Mm-hmm. And that architect is a local person that has had multiple generations as members of the Y. They're big donors to the Y. They're best friends with the state representative who got you funding. It can be very difficult to have that conversation when there's so many things in the community that are tied back to those conversations. And so you've got an outside person that's coming in to represent your Y. One rep has a conversation with you and your board. You talk about the sticky wickets, right? Mm-hmm. And then say, okay, well, and again, we're not going to go in like a bull in a china shop. Mm-hmm. We're going to be very careful about how we word everything and how we approach this and everything else. We understand from working in YMCA's for decades, right, like how tricky this can be. But you have that in your back pocket, right, and many Ys take advantage of it. And I think, speaking on behalf of my Y anyway, we always appreciated the Jim, whether it was a politician or I could meet with him with the major donor, so that I had one major donor one time that had his own business, and and he had built several buildings, and he just didn't understand why we couldn't do this. Mm-hmm. I can't even remember what it was now, but it was something, and you had explained, well, we can't do this because of X. And he wasn't going to take my word for it because I'm not in the construction industry. So I said, oh, let's have lunch or breakfast. I forget what it was. But we talked to him, and you guys started talking. And as soon as he realized that Jim could speak the language, he totally accepted what I had already said.
Right.
And he was happy with the answer, right?
Right.
But he wasn't going to he wasn't going to give that to me, and because he would ask other questions to me, and I couldn't go one step further than whatever you told me.
Right.
So, again, without naming the why or naming specific individuals, from my point of view as a CEO, it was wonderful to have, quote, the bad cop, in our back pocket. We didn't like to pull it out, but we could pull it out. We needed to pull it out.
That's right. Right. And oftentimes, you want to continue that relationship with that key partner or that board member.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Well, yes, and I'm sorry, but our expert at One Rep believes it's not in the best interest of this particular project.
Right.
We go down that path,
right.
And you move on with that relationship as a result of having us in between.
Well, and that's a good point. You point at the board. It's sometimes the same dynamic. Like the board will be flying along, everybody agrees on everything, and then all of a sudden there's this disagreement. And it's the worst case scenario, right? Half the board wants X and half wants Y, and the staff, talks to the owner's rep, who's talked to all the people involved and got this huge mixing bowl full of here's Y and here's the ripple effect and here's what it does, and what seems like it should be an easy yes is actually a no. So I can't tell you how many times I've gone to my board in my past life and said, well, here's why, and X. And then there's still this huge discussion. I'm like, I should have just brought Jim in with me, zoomed him in, brought him in, whatever it needs to be. And again, most times when the board hears that from a reputable source that can go down 3 levels as to exactly why, that just smooths out, right? So it's a wonderful thing that the bad cop or the support is a wonderful thing to have with the board.
The kind truth that we've heard.
The kind truth, yeah. Sometimes the unkind truth.
Yeah, true.
All right. Well, I think we beat that one to death.
No.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, we may have to expand on this topic later.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, that's it then. Good job.
No.
We'll see you guys for the next one.
Thank you.
Well, that's our One Rep constructive conversation for today. Thanks for watching. One Rep, we want to bring what we've learned in Pennsylvania to the whole rest of the country. We've had extensive experience doing YMCA capital projects here over the last 25 years, and we've had great success minimizing changes that YMCAs have had to make, compromises. We're minimizing the compromises that YMCAs have to make. And part of that, of course, is we want to minimize the unnecessary charges, and what that winds up being a lot of times is an increase in the mortgage amount, right? The debt load. And we want to make sure your Y is successful and your project is successful. So if you'd like more information about One Rep, you could visit us on our website. We have a Facebook page. We're on LinkedIn. Please give Jim or I a call anytime. We're happy to come out to your Y and talk to you about your project, or have a free Zoom consultation to talk about your project. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.